With the New York Jets preseason officially in the books, Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn can turn their focus onto trimming this roster from 90 men all the way down to 53 before this upcoming Tuesday's 4 p.m. deadline. I'm excited to get into it. Who made a push to be on this final 53? Who was on the roster bubble and didn't do enough and may be on their way out? I'm excited to get into it. I'm fired up. Let's go.
We want you to bring that here, all right? Go out there and press them and choke them out.
What's going on, Jets fans? It's your boy DT back. Early Saturday morning stream, trying to sneak this one in before Jake goes live just after noon. I wanted to give my 2.0 53-man roster prediction, one of Nick Shine's favorite types of shows, right? We're going to go through and predict all 53 men on the roster. I do have a couple practice squad players of note that I think should be priority stashes on the practice squad. So really fired up to get into it. Obviously, the Jets lose last night to the Eagles, 19-17. Pretty dramatic second half, right? With Adrian Martinez leading 2 touchdown drives. Toafili and Edwards both rush for touchdowns late in the second half. They come up just inches short of tying the game at 19 on a 2-point conversion on a Donovan Edwards rush, which I feel like he got across the line and maybe, the refs didn't want to overturn the call and prolong the game. But I felt like Donovan Edwards got in and there should have been at least a potential tie for, they don't do overtime in the preseason, but it would have been cool to see the Jets tie with the Eagles there because it was looking like a snooze fest in the first half until Brady Cook's 2-minute drive to end the first half, which was capped off only by a field goal, but it did show a lot of positive signs. So with that, we're just going to jump right in to the 53-man roster prediction. But before I do that, I do have a couple housekeeping notes. I am applying to YouTube's paid program currently. That's why I was a little late to the stream. I am putting in all my information so that hopefully Mr. YouTube can pay me in the upcoming days for some of my streams and content. So appreciate everybody's patience with that. Memberships will be up. You will be able to become an official A1 since day one. So it's not going to be on this stream, I don't think. Maybe somebody can tell me in the chat if they're able to do the super chat eligibilities. I don't think so just yet, but I think the next stream we do midweek next week will definitely get us there. So I appreciate everybody. We're on the road to 1,000 subs. I'm a couple short of 800 right now. I think I'm at like 785, 786. So really appreciate everybody tuning into my channel. The first 100 days or so have been incredible because of you guys. So just wanted to shout you guys out right away with that because I can't do it without you guys, obviously. You guys tuning into my stuff really make it easier, to do this stuff and put out good content. You guys are awesome. Oh, here we go. Bill M testing out the features right out the gates. Bill M with a 199 super chat. Let's effing go. I appreciate you, Bill M. You're going down in the history books as the very first official super chat on the channel. This is awesome. Seeing that teal in the corner is great. And I appreciate that, everybody. So hopefully the first of many from Bill M. And I appreciate that. Greatly appreciated. So with that, we're going to jump right into the 53-man roster. I have, in normal DT fashion, I have my nice slideshow presentations. So starting off with the quarterbacks, we have obviously 2. I don't think it's any secret who the 2 are. We got a good, positive update from Aaron Glenn yesterday about Tyrod Taylor, our backup quarterback. He is going to be on pace to play week 1. It's not a guarantee, but Aaron Glenn said he was confident that Tyrod Taylor is going to be the backup entering week 1. His knee scope was a couple weeks ago now, and he still has about 15 days till week 1 starts. So that gives him, over 3.5 weeks of rest since the knee scope, closer to 4 weeks actually. So I don't think Tyrod Taylor is in any jeopardy of missing time. I do have the practice squad guys listed here, priority practice squad guys. I think Brady Cook deserves the practice squad over Adrian Martinez. His 2-minute drive last night was very impressive. The anticipatory throw on the corner route to Skinner was huge. The slant route back to Skinner on 3rd and short was huge. So I think Brady Cook showed you more from a quarterbacking standpoint that the league will covet more. Adrian Martinez, I do think, could run this system a little better, but also if we're down to Martinez or Cook, guys, we're screwed. Like, let's just be honest. If Fields and Tyrod Taylor aren't in the game, we're screwed anyway. So for me, I'm picking a guy stylistically who I think the NFL world matches up more to, and I think that's Brady Cook, right? The fact that he's able to stand in the pocket and deliver on time, anticipatory throws, decent accuracy. I mean, him and Martinez aren't perfectly accurate. So if we're really, debating over, some practice squad / barely NFL level caliber players, I would choose Brady Cook. Would I care if they took Martinez over Cook? No. Would I care if they kept both on the practice squad? Probably not either. I feel like Cook has done enough to me and has progressed more since the start of camp than Martinez has. And I feel like we know what Martinez is, where Cook, I think there's just a little bit more upside to tap into. I understand this is like a big debate topic this morning. I don't really care, but I would just choose Brady Cook over Martinez stylistically because I think the league will view Cook as a more, viable option as a passer. Moving on to the running back group. This one, pretty obvious. I've been saying it for a little bit now. I think Nwangu does capture that 4th running back spot. He's also going to be your primary kick returner, and that would leave Donovan Edwards on the outside looking in. And, maybe Donovan Edwards does get poached by another player. Is he somebody you could potentially trade on Monday right before cutdown day and somebody gives you like a 7th round conditional pick back for Edwards? That would be great. I don't know if he proved enough outside of that Packers game where, the Packers defense is Swiss cheese that entire night. And he had a really good game. I'm not going to take that away from him, but I just didn't see enough in the last 2 preseason games. And I think Nwangu is, a capable running back in his own right, but he also provides you upside as a kick returner on special teams. So I do think Nwangu gets the nod over Edwards here, and they keep 4 running backs. Pretty straightforward with the running backs. Moving on to wide receivers. This one, I didn't change my projection from the last time I did this earlier last week. I still have them keeping 6. The 4 obvious ones, in my opinion, and they only Arian Smith of these 4 played yesterday. Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, Tyler Johnson. None of them played last night against the Eagles, so we know where they stand. They're our top 3 guys. Arian Smith got a little bit of run. I love the jet sweep that they ran with him. He picked up 10 yards on the ground, got a nice first down. I think he's obviously a lock as the 4th round rookie. And then I have Brandon Smith and Jamal Pritchett sticking on. I have Brandon Smith almost as that, Allen Lazard replacement. I don't think he has full, upside of Allen Lazard in terms of blocking, but I do think he gives you a contested catch element that Lazard probably doesn't right now. So you would sacrifice a little bit of blocking to increase in the pass catching element of Smith's game. And then Jamal Pritchett's going to be your punt returner. In my opinion, I don't think Xavier Gipson is going to make this roster. I would rather use Nwangu and Pritchett as my return men over a guy like Xavier Gipson, who I just feel like is kind of tapped out on potential. So I have those 6, and then down the bottom, you see practice squad. I think they keep Skinner. I put Ontario Wilson in here. Maybe it's Demir Miller from Rutgers. He had a nice play yesterday late in the second half, but I do think they try to keep 2 practice squad guys at the wide receiver position. And then you see IR spots. I think Allen Lazard and Xavier Gipson both go on short-term IR, which allow you to, have a little bit more flexibility at the position. I just don't think Allen Lazard what does he do anymore? He is a good blocker, like I said, but I feel like he got hurt blocking in the preseason, and, we haven't seen him ever since. So maybe the coaching staff and I will disagree there, but I don't think Lazard or Gibson have done enough to stick on the roster. Moving over to tight end, this has kind of been the same four, although I will put the caveat that Jeremy Ruckert could easily be swapped for a cut down tight end. I've been saying that for about a week and a half now. There's nothing I've really seen from Ruckert that shows me that, he deserves to be on here as a primary, option in this offense, whether it's passing game or blocking. They used Andrew Beck a lot last night, and he just provides so much more as a blocker. Mason Taylor is a better pass catcher. Stone Smart is probably better at both right now than Jeremy Ruckert is. So I loved, the optics of Jeremy Ruckert, but I don't see it with him. And, maybe he is the practice squad guy instead of Kuntz if they do swap him for a cut down tight end. I just don't see, the bottom depth chart at tight end being anything good. Like after Stone Smart, it really gets murky with Ruckert, Kuntz, and Johnson. I put Kuntz just as a practice squad guy just because I feel like you're going to want a body in at tight end on the practice squad. But if it's somebody from another team's cut downs to replace Ruckert and Kuntz, I don't care, to be honest. They just haven't done enough for me. Mason Taylor is going to be your guy. Beck's going to be your fullback. It's probably your 12 personnel tight end. And then Stone Smart's going to come in, when he has to. And he's probably more of your power slot. So I don't see him playing a ton of inline snaps attached to the offensive line. Maybe he does. Obviously, that play against Abdul Carter versus the Giants, he was, almost attached to the line of scrimmage, still standing up in the stance. But I don't see Stone Smart being your inline blocker. So they're going to rely heavily on Andrew Beck for that. So Jeremy Ruckert, he's on here, but that's just because I don't have another name to give as evidence that he should be gone. But the first sight of a cut down tight end that I like, I'm definitely taking him over Ruckert. Offensive tackles, I kept 4. Carter Warren is the one that I don't have making the roster. I just don't see it with him. He was the 3rd offensive tackle in at right tackle in most games. Obviously, yesterday he was still the 3rd one in because Armand Membu played with the starters, and then Chuks Okorafor comes in, and then Carter Warren comes in, and he didn't have a good game. He had, I think, a holding or a false start on one of the drives. So not a completely clean game from Carter Warren in a game where I felt like he needed to play really good to have a spot on this roster. So I have Fashanu and Membu, and the backups are Mitchell and Okorafor. Interior offensive line, I kept 5. So we have a total of 9 offensive linemen. John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Elijah Vera Tucker, those are obviously your 3 starters on the interior. And then I have Myers and Xavier Newman as your primary backups, with the practice squad being Cole Laval, who played right guard as the backup the entire preseason and did a pretty good job, in my opinion. So maybe he even sticks on as that 10th offensive lineman. In this exercise, I only kept 9. So Laval goes to the practice squad. And then Leander Vegan, the German offensive lineman, he gets the international pathway treatment. So he counts as that one roster, or I guess practice squad roster spot that doesn't count on the 16. So he'd technically be the 17th of him. And really 17th, practice squad player. So Leander Vegan does get to stick on. I feel like he's like a freebie on the roster. So I have 9 total offensive linemen, 2 to the practice squad. Maybe they put a tackle on the practice squad like Samuel Jackson, but again, I don't think so. They'd rather find a guy from somebody else's roster. Connor Long with a $2 or €2 super chat. Connor, where are you? Are you somewhere not in the United States where you're sending these super chats from? I appreciate it, man. Congrats, DT. Keep elevating, brother. Dude, I'm coming for you, man. We're both on the road to 2K. I know you're really close to 2,000 subscribers, so keep killing it in your own right, dude. You're going to take all of our jobs one day, but I'm just here to, push back a little bit longer on you and resist as long as possible before it's just inevitable that you guys over at Next Gen Jets just take over the YouTube market. You and Chris and Josh, all you guys are just killing it over there. So I appreciate this, but you got to explain why it's not $2. Are you not in the States right now, Connor? So appreciate that again. back to the predictions. So that has me at, I believe, 25 offensive players. So pretty standard, 25 on offense, 25 on defense, and then 3 on special teams. Moving over to the defense, I have five edge players: Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens, Tyler Barron, and then I put a free agent, right? This could be Braden McGregor as the 5th guy. I thought he had a really good game last night. Again, I just don't know if it's enough to stick on the roster. I would much prefer Zadarius Smith or a Jadeveon Clowney over any of these guys on the practice squad, and really over Tyler Barron too. So I'm still of the mindset that they're going to keep 5, and one of them is not on the roster currently. So that's my thoughts. McGregor and Kingsley Jonathan go to the practice squad. I thought Kingsley Jonathan showed enough with the backups, getting consistent pressure against the Giants. And then, he had a decent game last night, nothing crazy, but McGregor definitely showed up. He had a ton of pressures. He had a really good sack on Kyle McCord as well. So McGregor made a good final push. Does he stick on? I don't think so, especially if they make an addition, a veteran addition. So unfortunate here, but I do think we're still one body short at edge. Another super chat from Alan, $2. Congrats, B- for reaching money status. Why Black Rocks? Okay, that's funny. That's good, Alan. I appreciate it. I love that you call me a B-. I feel like the grade has fluctuated quite a bit, but we're still in that B range. So that's fine. C's get degrees where I'm from, so I'll take a B-. I appreciate that, Alan. Yeah, YA Black. He's going to get thrust into a bigger role now with Derek Harmon suffering that injury, unfortunately, in the preseason when he didn't need to really be playing, in my opinion. So it's definitely a bad look, or unfortunate look for Derek Harmon. But yes, YA Black will get a chance to make a name for himself. Moving over, defensive interior, I kept 5 as well, so a total of 10 defensive linemen. If there's something you guys should know about me, I always lean to go with 10 offensive or 10 defensive linemen. I went with 9 offensive linemen in this one, but I have to go 10 defensive linemen here. I feel like we still are a couple bodies short. They did a lot of work at defensive tackle earlier this week via trade, but I still think we're one body short. So I'm keeping 5 defensive tackles. Quinton Williams, Harrison Phillips, those are going to be your 2 starters. J. Tufele, I think he has proven plenty enough. He was not even active yesterday or last night, excuse me. He was in street clothes, so it goes to show where they think he is in terms of his roster spot. Leonard Taylor III and Juwan Briggs round out the 4th and 5th spots on the defensive interior. Obviously, Juwan Briggs, you just traded a 6th-round pick for, so you're not going to cut a guy, especially if you haven't really seen him do any work for you yet. And Leonard Taylor III, he's my, not sleeper option, but tweener option between practice squad or active roster. And it all depends on if Byron Cowart goes to IR or not. We haven't seen Byron Cowart at all this preseason. He hurt his ankle a couple weeks ago and has not been at practice or in any of the games. And it was just kind of assumed based on practice reports that he was the guy next to Quinnen. So he goes down. They trade for 2 more defensive interior players in Phillips and Briggs. So does Cowart go to IR and give a spot up for Leonard Taylor III to make this 53? I would love that to be the case. I just don't know if that's true or not. So maybe Cowart makes the 53 because he's healthy enough, and Leonard Taylor III doesn't make it. Connor Long says, I have heard that LT3 is on the outside looking in right now. Yeah, I would assume that too. And only if they keep 5 does he even have a chance. If they keep 4 defensive interior players, we know he's not making the team. So that's definitely one I'm watching for, but I think Taylor does give you enough pass rushing upside where I think it's worth an argument at least. Linebacker, I have them keeping 5. Sometimes, I go back and forth. 4 linebackers, 5 linebackers. I'm not sure how many I want them to keep, but I have them keeping 5 in this one. I think I had them keeping 4 in my last one. Quincy Williams, Jamian Sherwood are obviously your starters. Jamin Davis is your linebacker 3. At least optically, what we've seen in the preseason, he's been the linebacker 3. He was out there last night, so hopefully he, is more of a lock than not, because the depth behind it is pretty suspect, right? Kiko Maligoa, I don't know if he was a rookie or if he wasn't a rookie, excuse me, would he make this roster? Kind of like Tyler Barron. I'm not sure. I didn't see enough from either of these guys in the preseason to say they're not even NFL talent or, they're going to be roster locks. So Maligoa to me is a bit of a difference in terms of skill set, right? Sherwood, Williams, even Jamin Davis, they're like smaller, faster linebackers. And Kiko is like a big, bruising, run-stuffing type of linebacker. So maybe they keep him just for the schematic difference and how they can deploy him a little differently. So I have him as linebacker 4, and then McCreary Ball as linebacker 5, who's going to hopefully just give you mostly special teams upside. I have 3 linebackers making it to the practice squad just because I'm not sure how the position's going to shake out and where, what positions of depth are they going to want security and insurance moving forward into the season. I feel like if you're running a lot of base 4-3, you're going to want more linebackers, obviously. So McCreary Ball will stay on, and then I have 3 practice squad guys: Jackson Sermon, Arthur Boog Smith, and Jamarcus Weston, who does give you some special teams upside, excuse me. So it seems like a loaded linebacker room with 5 on the 53 and then 3 on the practice squad, but I just feel like you're always going to need depth linebackers for special teams or anything like that. So I have them keeping a couple extra. And with that, we have our very first member, Nate Dogg. What's up, Nate Dogg? You become the very first A1 since day one on DT's channel. I greatly appreciate this. This is awesome, man. Thank you so much. Again, I'm still working through all the YouTube kinks, but I was able to get the bones of the memberships and super chats up for everybody. I'm still working on, the badges and emojis and all that stuff, but really just wanted to come on and more or less celebrate memberships and super chats. So Nate Dogg, the official first member of the A1s since day one, and I appreciate you, Nate. Hopefully more DT exclusives coming, and this is awesome, man. First one in the books. We're one more membership away from getting our 5th emoji. I still have to work out how to, make emojis and everything. I don't have enough pictures that are small enough to be emojis. They have to be like a certain size according to YouTube. So I appreciate this, Nate, and we'll get the membership features up and running as quickly as possible, hopefully even by tomorrow. So greatly appreciate that, Nate. You are awesome for that. All right, moving on to cornerbacks. I have them keeping 6. My last prediction, I only had them keeping 5. Jarek Bernard-Converse, I believe, was the guy I left off last time. It's hard to keep him off this time. You obviously have your 3 starters: Gardner, Stevens, Michael Carter II. Those are locks. A.Z. Thomas is a lock as the 3rd-round pick this past year. And then Quantez Stiggers is your special team / CB5. So I definitely think all 5 of those guys should be locks. Jarek Bernard-Converse, I guess, wouldn't be considered a lock, but I think he's shown enough. He had so many opportunities yesterday to get potential interceptions. One that would have went for a pick 6, in my opinion, if he got his hands on it. But I love what JBC has shown us, and I feel like I had to correct my 53 prediction from last time where I had more safeties and only 5 cornerbacks. To Alan's point, though, wrong one. To Alan's point, I think JBC is a trade candidate. Teams around the league might call the Jets about him. Yeah, this is a player I said too. I was on Jake's show when, the wide receiver trade rumors were happening. And I thought, maybe trade JBC and, like a 6th-round pick for Romeo Doubs. Obviously, Romeo Doubs isn't getting moved out of Green Bay with all the issues injury-wise they have in the wide receiver room. But if you could get JBC in a late-round pick for, a wide receiver 3/4, that's a great trade, in my opinion, because you don't want to just cut JBC and you don't want to have a guy who's not really going to play a ton of snaps as your cornerback 6. So, yeah, JBC would definitely be somebody I would look to potentially trade for another position of need. Can you get a tight end? Can you get a wide receiver? Can you get an edge player using JBC? That's definitely where I would look. But I think he deserves to stay on the 53 if he's not going to get traded. Nate says, isn't Stiggers higher than Thomas on the depth chart? I think the unofficial depth chart that they put out has Stiggers higher than AZ Thomas, but AZ Thomas came back from the injury. He was at practice this week. He injured his shoulder 2 weeks ago, and they still didn't play him in the game. So I don't think that was health related. I think that was more, we have a role for you, and we're gonna keep you as CB3. I understand you're a big Quantez guy, so I'm not gonna, hate it if he's technically cornerback 4 behind Quantez. I just think he's your first boundary corner up if Sauce or Brandon Stevens were to sustain an injury. So that's the only thinking there. Safeties, I knocked it down to 4 from 5. Last time I had 5, and I had them keeping Jarius Monroe. He was injured twice in last night's game. He was landed on by a receiver. It looked like maybe a shoulder, and then he came back into the game, and on a deep pass breakup in the end zone, he injured what looked like his hamstring. He came up really limpy, holding the back of his right leg. So he did suffer 2 injuries last night, and I hoped he would have made the roster as a versatile DB. But I think at this point they're going to keep 4 and put 2 at least on the practice squad. So Monroe and Dean Clark go to the practice squad. I think Dean showed a little bit more to me than Jordan Clark did of the 2 Clarks at safety. And then Monroe, obviously, for the reasons I just explained. Isaiah Oliver, Malachi Moore, they're your backup safeties for now. Although I do think it's going to be, not very long before Malachi Moore takes over as the starter for Tony Adams. Although Tony Adams is very liked by this coaching staff, and he has done pretty well in training camp practices. And I'm not going to, put a ton of weight into that, but he's getting a strip sack on Justin Fields in the ones. So, maybe there is a lot more to like from Tony Adams in this regime and this coaching staff and system rather than just with Saleh and Ulbrich. Nate says, AG also mentioned in presser this week, Stiggers is making a push for backup nickel. Yeah, so I'd forget who it was. It may have been Will Parkinson said that when the teams break up into positional groups at practice, they even have a specific nickel corner position group. And it was only comprised of Michael Carter and Jordan Clark. So if that's the case, I don't think Jordan Clark's going to make it. So can Quantez prove to be the backup nickel? That would be great, in my opinion. And it just gives you more of a reason to stick on the roster. And I don't think that's above Quantez's abilities, right? As a cornerback, I think he can move inside. He's shifty enough. He's fluid enough with his hips to turn and run with the wide receivers vertically. So I wouldn't be completely against that idea. Although I do think right now it'd be Isaiah Oliver as your backup nickel if something were to happen to Michael Carter. I do love the fact that they have depth at the position to be flexible and have it either be Stiggers or Isaiah Oliver. So good point there. But I do think in short order, Malachi Moore is going to take over for Tony Adams. And if not, you still have 3 really good top line safeties. Malachi Moore, yeah, he needs to slow down a little bit. And that's something he mentioned to Janae Coakley of SNY in his post-game interview. He mentioned that once the game slowed down to him a little bit after the first preseason game, he started, his play recognition became a little bit better. His awareness got a little bit better. He didn't take as many poor angles. He only had one bad miss tackle last night, and it wasn't even that bad. I think everything else he did, special teams, big hit on the return man, interception, a PBU, tackle for loss. He did way too much good to harp on that one tackle attempt for him. So I do think Malachi Moore in short order is going to be the safety starting opposite Cisco. And then special teams, obviously these are your 3 guys. I mean, Nick Folk, Austin McNamara, Thomas Hennessy. No surprises here. Nick Folk's going to get the job. Austin McNamara has really done a very good job in training camp and preseason so far. So I don't think they're even going to bother bringing in a second punter to compete with him. And then Thomas Hennessy, longest tenured Jet, pretty obvious. He's going to stick around. Pretty amazing that, long snappers are able to carve out such a long career with one team, but it is pretty cool to see the continuity there at the position. Alan, I said top line safeties for us. Yeah, it's a bottom tier group in the league, of course. And honestly, it might not even be the worst in our division, right? There are some bad safeties on Buffalo's team right now. And outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick, Miami doesn't really have a ton of great safety either. They have Ashton Davis and somebody, I'm blanking on his name. It's a hard name to pronounce, but they have another guy back there. I think it's Melifonwu and Ashton Davis are their starters outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick. So it's not great for the entire division. And, the Patriots are looking to move on from Kyle Duggar. So I thought he was one of their best safeties, and it doesn't seem like he's got a spot for in Mike Vrabel's defense. So I'm not saying top line in terms of like their elite talent in the league. No, it's top line for the Jets depth chart. That's what I meant there, Alan. Alan says must add tight end, wide receiver, edge, and linebacker. I agree. I don't think they'll add a linebacker, just being honest, unless they swap like a Marcelino McCreary Ball with a cut down linebacker that they prefer. Tight end, yeah, they got to swap Ruckert out. Wide receiver, we've been talking about that. Edge, I've talked about more so than wide receiver. I would put it edge, tight end for wide receiver, linebacker. And that's just more comes down to usage and opportunity. You get an edge in here, they're going to have the ability to make a case right away to get playing time. A tight end 4 is going to be useful just due to how many tight ends they want to employ down in and down out and how much running they want to do of the ball. So that's why I prioritize them over wide receiver. Although it's still important to get a wide receiver 3 or 4, somebody who's going to compete with Tyler Johnson. And then linebacker, like I said, I don't know if they find one at cut down, but I wouldn't be against swapping McCreary Ball for a cut down linebacker. So with that, that is the entirety of my 53-man roster prediction 2.0. I will turn it over to you guys in the chat. I'm trying to find the super chat that Gator sent me that I missed. Thank you, Gator. $4.99 from the GOAT, Gator McCluskey. Congrats on another milestone. You have become the GOAT guest on Jake's show. Incredible insight. You keep us educated. Gonna be a long 2 weeks. Gator, thank you so much. That's awesome. I've been, extremely grateful for the opportunity to be on Jake's show once a week. I felt like, just going on doing guest spots before the draft was, enough for me. And I'm glad that Jake has decided to keep me on for, the off season. And now we re-upped, and I'm going to be on Thursdays during the regular season too. So I'm really appreciative of Jake and obviously the entire community surrounding. That's why I'm wearing my Asmaniac hat today. You guys have been truly incredible, and I can't thank you guys enough, but it just makes it easier to make the content that much better for you guys. It's not going to be a long 2 weeks, Gator, because I will put out content every day, if not every other day, to keep you guys busy until we face Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. So greatly appreciate that again, Gator. Thank you so much. Rich says you earned it, DT. I appreciate that, Rich. And you've been a loyal member since day one, and I can appreciate that. Absolutely. Kyle Clifton says Jaheim Bell is a Florida State guy. Yeah, cue the Ricky New York theme song, right? We are going to get a lot of Jaheim Bell to the Jets out of Ricky New York, and that's fine. I think he also went to, was it South Carolina too? But yeah, he's definitely a Florida State guy, and I liked him in the pre-draft process. I know the Patriots cut him a couple of days ago, so maybe they look to add him. I don't know. What does he do better than Jeremy Ruckert if he's already getting cut, 5 days in advance by the Patriots? So we'll see. I do think he can block. I think he's an okay pass catcher, right? But again, if they've had Jeremy Ruckert in camp this whole time, do they think Jaheim Bell gives them more than Ruckert? I don't know. I don't have the ability to answer that. I would entertain it, though. Absolutely. All right, let's see what we got. Chris B. Dylan Tereman deserves it all. I appreciate you, Chris B. The most optimistic person in the entire community for sure. Thank you for all your support. Reese says, we love you, Dylan. I love you guys all back. You guys are awesome. A1 since day one. Nate is the only official member of the A1 since day one, so we got to get that up a little bit. But I greatly appreciate all you guys. Jack says the defense is going to be good. We have to win ugly. Can't see a high-powered O. Yeah, you're probably going to see some 21 to 17 type wins, 23 to 20 type wins, 13 to 10 type wins from the Jets this season. They're not all going to be grinded out ugly wins, in my opinion. I think you'd have some opportunities to win by multiple scores. But my biggest concern would be if the Jets were to fall behind in the game, they go down 10, 14 points. Do they have enough horses to come back? I don't think they do. And even last night against the Eagles, when they were down 13-3 or 16-3, whatever the score was at the time, they were still focused on running the ball. So I feel like no matter what, we're going to see the Jets running the ball, whether they're up 20 or down 17. And maybe that's not the best way to think about it with this offense, but I don't know. I think no matter what, if it's a close game, they want to run the ball and prove that they can be dominant on the ground. A 10-point game to me isn't the end of the world if you want to run it, because it's only a 2-score game. But if the Jets are out there down like 20 points running the ball, yeah, that's a big issue for me. So I don't think it's going to be that serious, but it's going to be definitely some competitive wins and more competitive losses too. Like, you can lose a 1-score game and it's okay. Don't get blown out though. Don't have the 40-0 against the Buffalo Bills where Tyrod Taylor has to come in at like the end of the third quarter because the game is absolutely cooked. I don't know how to pronounce this, but I want to say Delonte, which is absolutely cool. LT3 better make the team. Yeah, that would be cool if Leonard Taylor makes the team. It all depends on Cowert's availability, right? Does he go to IR or not? Rich says 25 likes. Come on, folks. Get those likes up. We appreciate that greatly. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're just short of 800, so maybe we can get 800 at the end of this stream, and that would be great. Alan says, I would trade Lazard for Darnell Washington. Yeah, that would be a really fun trade. I love Darnell coming out of the draft process. He definitely gives you something that the tight end room doesn't have, which is just like a pure blocker first type guy. I mean, Andrew Beck might be, a block first guy, but Darnell Washington, sheer size. I mean, he's a pseudo 6th offensive lineman. So I would really appreciate that if they did that trade. I'm not a big fan of Alan Lazard. I can, if he goes to IR, it wouldn't be the worst, but also if he's not on the team, I don't care either. Kyle Clifton, what's up, Kyle? I appreciate you tuning in. If Phillips and Briggs shook out as a result of the deep defensive tackle draft class, then it stands to reason a tight end 3 might be available at cut down. Yeah, I think to the point about tight ends, there's going to be somebody who's worth looking at, right? At least looking at. I feel like whatever Rucker is giving you is not enough to justify not looking around at other teams' tight end cut downs. So, yeah, you could definitely find a tight end 3. And then to your point about Phillips and Briggs, yeah, maybe a lot of people feel better about the rookies and undrafted guys at the position defensive tackle rather than, Phillips and Briggs. I don't know exactly what the Browns have in their defensive line room, but it seemed like the Vikings were very okay with what they had. I know they just signed Javon Hargrave. I know they have Jonathan Allen. Jalen Redmond, I think, is currently their leader at the defensive tackle position. So perhaps they just liked enough of him to move on from Harrison Phillips. I guess the only thing I would say is, although we wanted a defensive tackle in the draft class, if we were to take a defensive tackle in the 6th round instead of Malagoa, and the expectation was for him to be good enough to play next to Quinnen Williams right away, that's way too much of an expectation, right? That's like the opposite of the Max Mitchell effect. Max Mitchell had 0 expectations entering his rookie year in 2022. He gets thrust into a starting spot, and then all of a sudden he's outperforming his 0 baseline expectations. If we drafted a 6th round rookie and we put him next to Quinnen Williams, we would all, myself included, immediately say this guy needs to start and he has lofty expectations at the defensive tackle position. So I like the approach of taking 2 6-rounders in the future and getting a veteran commodity that's proven with great leadership, who's going to be a bit of a gelling point for this defensive line. I don't want to say he's JFM stylistically, but if he's JFM in terms of can we turn the defensive line and like we get them all coming together because of this addition, I felt like that's what JFM did to the defensive line under Saleh. He kind of put the bow on top of everything. So I think Harrison Phillips gives you that same similar element, although stylistically they're not the same player whatsoever. I do think of it like that. But yeah, to your point, Alan, Y.A. Black, if you wanted to take him over Malagoa, sure. But again, now your expectation for YA Black is all the way up here opposite Quinn Williams, whereas Malagoa, his expectations are kind of down here. So like I'm trying to limit, guys from underperforming expectations. I don't think YA is a bad player. I don't think he needed to come in and be immediately the starter. And that wasn't the case in Pittsburgh, right? They had a first round defensive lineman and a veteran Hall of Famer in Cam Hayward ahead of him. So they used him as more of a depth piece. Whereas if he was on the Jets, he's immediately the guy next to Quinn. And then I just think expectations for a rookie being that high in the 6th round is it's unfair to him, right? Like look at the expectations we're putting on Arian Smith as a 4th rounder. It doesn't vibe with me. So I like the move to go get Phillips instead of forcing a need at defensive tackle in the 6th round. Duncan says, I'm worried Edwards getting picked up if we practice squad him. I think they keep an extra running back with the amount of times they plan to run. RBs get nicked up. Yeah, so I do agree. Running backs certainly get hurt a lot. We currently have one who's hurt, Isaiah Davis. He's got an ankle injury. So do they IR Isaiah Davis and try to keep Donovan Edwards for the short term? I'm not sure. Are they able to flip Donovan Edwards to a team that, we saw the 49ers trade for Brian Robinson Jr. Is a team like the Cowboys, willing to come up and give you a day 3 asset for Donovan Edwards just to not have to go through waivers? I'm not sure. I don't think the upside of keeping a running back 5 is smart, in my opinion. So I would think that you'd either try to trade him or you just pray that he doesn't get scooped off waivers. So I honestly, and truthfully, guys, I think he's more of like a Bam Knight than anything else. Like some of his runs are impressive, some aren't. Like I don't see it fully for him. I just don't see it. And maybe I'm wrong on Donovan Edwards. I'm just not that high on him, and I would much rather keep a guy like Nwangu for special teams upside. NY Jets Florida says, at least we get college football today. Yes, I'm very excited for college football. I don't know any of the matchups today, but I'll be tuned in here and there. Got a lot of cleaning to do around the house. I've been neglecting the house cleaning portions of my life with all the Jets content I've been making. So after I clean the house today, I will be sitting down and enjoying some college football, even if they're not great matchups. Rich says, I like Isaiah. Yeah, I'm a big Isaiah Davis fan too. I wasn't ready to, trade or do anything with Breece Hall because I like Isaiah Davis. But if he's healthy, man, he's a good pass protector. He had some really good 3rd down pass pro reps in the preseason. He's still a very good route runner and pass catcher. We obviously saw that with the Justin Fields scramble touchdown. Like he's a very high IQ, high awareness type of route runner. So I do like what he brings to the team for sure. I just don't know if is he healthy enough to make the 53 or do they try to IR him first? Alan says Cowboys will pick up a running back after Jaden Blue's injury. Is he actually hurt, or are you just like projecting that Jaden Blue is going to get hurt? Because if Blue is actually hurt for the Cowboys, that would be a big factor in their plans at running back. So I feel like they've also bubble wrapped all of their running backs this preseason. So we really haven't gotten a look at them either. So we'll see. But the Cowboys would be the team that makes sense. Honestly, if I could flip Donovan Edwards to the Cowboys for like a 7th or 6th round condition, I'm cool with that. Alan, again, Rocco Beck today. That's is that Anthony Beck's son, I believe? Iowa State versus Kansas State and Ireland. That'll be cool. That will definitely be a good game. Oh, yeah, it's Anthony's son. The chat has confirmed. Iowa State. Okay, that game starts at noon, so about an hour away. Great. I can go get some lunch and tune into college football. It's always great to and I don't want to put too much stock into the first college football season or games, the first couple weeks, because a lot of these guys start off slow. They don't really have a preseason. But it is going to be exciting to get the draft talk rolling again. And I've been saying it to myself. I want to have Dom C on the channel as quickly as possible to talk, upcoming draft stuff. And I feel like his insight is always great. So we will definitely be having Dom C on this channel in the near future. All right, let's see what else we got in the chat. We're at about 45 minutes. I'm not going to go longer than about an hour. I just wanted to come on and do my 53 prediction, talk to you guys for a little bit, say thank you again for the memberships and the super chat abilities. So definitely smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000 subs, closing in on 800 now. My goal is 1,000 by the start of the regular season. So hopefully we can still get there. It's looking a little less likely, but the past month has been really, positive in terms of growth on this channel. So if we just have another strong 2 weeks, I think we can definitely get there. Next Saturday, Texas at Ohio State, LSU at Clemson. Oh, those are going to be some dog fights. You got Arch Manning and Julian Sayin in the first matchup, Nussmeier and Klubnik in the second one. That's going to be great. I'm looking forward to those matchups for sure. Peg and Artie in the house. What's up, Peg and Artie? The lethal two-piece combo of the community. Zachary Burner says, are you 100% sure Jamal Pritchett makes this team? He was playing late into last night. No, I'm not 100%. Most of these guys at the bottom of the positional depth chart, I'm not 100% sure on. I just think that if you're not going to move forward with Xavier Gibson, you need to find a guy who's going to give you punt return duties. I understand he did have the muffed punt that he was able to jump back onto. So hopefully, that's just a one-off and an outlier. But the rest of, he had the 41-yard return. He had another big return that got them closer to midfield on that final drive. He was, doing video game-esque joystick type moves along the left-hand sideline there after a couple catches in the second half. So no, I don't say it's 100%, but if Xavier Gibson's not a lock for this roster, you're going to have to find special teams return guys somewhere. And I think Nwangu at kick returner and Pritchett at punt returner would definitely make the most sense to me. Cutting Crew, what's up, man? I appreciate you. I've seen you in the comment section quite a bit, so I love chopping it up with you. Thanks for all your input. I was surprised Adams, I assume it's Tony Adams, didn't dress. He hasn't made a statement to be an official starter, in my opinion. I think with Tony Adams, it's probably more so what they see out of him at practice. He had a strip sack against Justin Fields in team periods at one of the most recent practices. So I do think that there is a disconnect maybe on what the internal coaching staff sees on a day-to-day basis with Tony Adams and what all of our preconceived notions are of Tony Adams based on what we saw with him in the last regime. I'm going to give the coaching staff the benefit of the doubt when it comes to these types of things this year because, again, they see them every single day. I just don't know if he's done enough, to be the full-time starter or if it's going to be more of like a rotational role with Malachi Moore next to Andre Sisco. I do agree. Malachi Moore is a dog. The first game, maybe first two games, I didn't love. Like he's just kind of shoulder checking tight ends on the screen pass against the Giants. So, it was a bit of a rocky start for him. But like he said yesterday to Janae Coakley, the game has started to slow down for him already. And it's just his third preseason game. So I like his versatility. I like his instincts. I like his ability to, get downhill, play versus the run, play versus the pass. He's definitely going to be a contributor moving forward. I don't want to put too much expectation on him to be the immediate starter and, deal with those lumps where Tony Adams, you're probably dealing with less, probably a more steady, even keel performance, even if it's not the high upside at the back end. I feel like sometimes with the safeties, you don't want to take the upside swing during game day situations. You would rather have the guy who's going to be a consistent force for you back there. So maybe that's putting too much on Tony Adams compared to Malachi Moore, but I don't want to see Malachi Moore thrust into that role too quickly. Yo, Holmes, what's up, man? I appreciate you. He said Philly announcers were calling Malachi Moore the Jets starter. I watched, who was it? Ian Eagle and JJ Watt on the Jets broadcast. I guess that's the national broadcast. So I didn't hear like the Philadelphia announcers side of things. But I guess the only pushback I'd say is maybe they're saying he's the starter for that night specifically, not going into the season. And also when you're listening to the opposite team announcers, they don't have the info on your team, right? Like last week I listened to the Giants broadcast for Jets Giants, and all they talked about were Giants players. They had very little insight on the Jets players. So maybe they're just uninformed or were strictly talking about last night being a starter. Yo Holmes with a follow-up. The announcers were straight trash. I didn't listen to the Eagles broadcast side of it. I loved Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt. I thought J.J. Watt many a times was saying the things on the broadcast that I was writing down in my notes. So I liked J.J. Watt for sure. Allen, Tony Adams, Xavier Gibson, Michael Clemens should not see significant action. All three are fundamentally flawed players. Yeah, I think Gibson, I would say, is probably the least likely to see significant time. I don't even think he makes the 53. Tony Adams, yeah, I think he's going to play until Malachi Moore proves that he can't be on the bench any longer. And Michael Clemens, they're going to have to add a body and eliminate the amount of reps that Clemens is going to take. I don't love Steve Wilkes saying that he loves Michael Clemens' passion for the game. I feel like that's not enough to keep me around, but it is what it is with Michael Clemens, and the coaching staff and I are definitely going to disagree on a couple of those players, like you said, Alan. Gator says, a sad reality about the Jets continues to be fantasy relevance. Last 2 years, Breece and Garrett were rounds 1 or 2 picks. Now they're rounds 3 or 4. What would you rank Garrett in terms of a fantasy wide receiver? So I am doing a couple of my fantasy leagues in the upcoming weeks. I think I have like 3. I did a family league. I did like my home league with all my buddies back from New Jersey. I'm in a dynasty league, and I was going to join a couple others, but I try not to overload myself with fantasy. But I did go on to ESPN app and do a mock draft, and I tried to see where people were lining up, and I got to the 3rd round, and I think I was picked 37. And Garrett Wilson was still on the board. So I was definitely surprised. I think a lot of that bakes into the quarterback play, right? If Justin Fields is even what we think he could be in terms of a passer, Garrett Wilson is going to get his, and he'll definitely outperform his ADP. Breece, to me, I don't understand where his ranking is. I understand that they think he, might not have the best year, but the fact that he's going to be a pass catcher in a career contract year, I think he should definitely be a little bit higher than his ADP says. So perhaps you're just going to get Jets on bargains. Aaron Rodgers is going to inflate their fantasy value, early on in the season, and then simultaneously tank their fantasy value later in the season. Maybe Justin Fields does the opposite, right? And it starts at a low point, and you get a huge return on value based on their ADP. So I don't know if I would target either Breece or Garrett. But if I'm sitting in the 4th round and I have the choice between Garrett Wilson and Devonta Smith, I'm probably taking Garrett Wilson. Like that's just what it comes down to. So definitely a good question. I was asked if I would do any live fantasy work on the channel. I'm not entirely sure if I would or not. Maybe I'll do like one of my drafts live so that everybody can chime in and we can kind of make it a community thing. But I'm not really a huge fantasy content creator, and I don't know if I have the bandwidth to do fantasy stuff, but it's something I've been asked about. Zach says, JJ Watt and Ian Eagle are better than Fox's number 1 crew. I think Brady's on the Fox number 1 crew, and yeah, I would say JJ Watt over Tom Brady for sure. I must have missed this, Yo Holmes, but if they were calling him Samuel L. Jackson, that's hilarious. He did take an L on that one play at a pre-snap false start, which was unfortunate, but I don't know. Maybe he sticks on the practice squad as a late addition to the offensive line, but more likely than not, he's cut. But that's funny that they were calling him Samuel L. Alan, I agree with this. Greg Olsen did get screwed, and I'm glad that he spoke out about it. But it just proves there's no loyalty. Even at the highest levels, they will replace you as soon as they feel like it's necessary to. Hey, DNY for life. $2 super chat. Congratulations, DT. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. This is has been awesome. Just seeing the blue or the colored chats pop up. It's a great feeling. So I appreciate this greatly. Many more to come, and hopefully the content is just going to continue getting better for you guys. Greg, the only time I think we'll hear the Boo Birds in game 1 is when number 8 comes running out on the field for the black and gold. Last one here from Chris B. Possible names to consider at edge, defensive end, outside linebacker, Samson Ebukam, David Ajabo, Yatir Gross-Matos, Azeez Ojulari, or someone else. Sure, yeah. I didn't know that all of these guys are free agents or if they're going to be cut down candidates. So I would guess I would need more context to these. I think David Ajabo is currently on the roster. But yeah, I think that they need to grab an edge. I would probably prefer a higher end guy like Zadarius Smith or Jadeveon Clowney, who you know is more like a proven guy in the pass rush. I don't want a guy who's just going to be a middling talent, and we're not quite sure if he does give you enough of a upgrade at pass rush. So those are great names to invoke for sure. I guess I would lean Azeez Ojulari and David Ajabo of the two you mentioned specifically, but I would like to see a veteran like Zadarius or Jadeveon. Yep, there you go, Chris B. Zadarius or Jadeveon. Not as high on Preston Smith, but I wouldn't hate that either. Definitely think there's going to be an addition to the edge room coming shortly, before week 1 at least. Maybe not before cut down day, but I do think they're going to have to get a little cute at that position. So I appreciate that chat from you. I'm going to end it here just short of the hour mark. I'm going to go grab some lunch and turn on some college football. Tune into Jake at 12:30 as well. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Good amount of super chats. We got Nate Dog in the A1 since day 1 as a membership. So we're going to continue watching those numbers grow. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. One of our highest viewed, concurrent shows. I see over 100 of you guys in the room right now, both on YouTube and Twitter. So the numbers have definitely been boosted up the past couple weeks. My viewerships on my videos have been a lot higher. I feel like I'm consistently putting out 200 to 300 views, where I was putting out about 100 to 150 on average a couple weeks ago. So you guys are awesome. You guys make this community what it is. I'm just here to stand behind the camera and take all your comments and feedback, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody except for Georgie, who's following the Allen train as a B-. You're a freaking goon, Georgie. You're a goon. I appreciate everybody once again. I'll be back, I hope, maybe tomorrow. I'm trying to find time for this Justin Fields film review, but now that we have the super chats and memberships and everything available at our disposal, I'll probably do the film dive tomorrow at some point. I hate going live when other content creators are going live because I want to be able to give them their time as well to watch. So I won't be going live if any of the major guys are. So we'll try to sneak in a film review before next week. Hopefully tomorrow. I got some time, and I appreciate it. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're new. We're on the road to 1K. We should be close to 800 now. I appreciate everybody, and until next time, let's go Jets.